Hello and welcome to the next video of my MSI 2025 series where we cover mid lane. This is going to be a contentious role because, people don't like to listen. So this is going to be fun. We have all the stats here. We're going to talk about them a bit. Then we're going to look at their champion pools and where the players are ranked. A very solid class. You could argue you have three of the top five mids in the world in Chovy, Shanks, and Knight here, based on my opinion. And then a young group, right? We have four players, 20 or younger? Four in this role. Honkyu's going to turn 18 at this event, which is pretty insane. He's got a lot of potential. So, KDA leader Chovy 7.3, Shank 6.5, lower end JoJo 3.6. So JoJo statistically leaves a bit to be desired. We're noticing the bottom half of this board is where we're seeing lower stats. That's a bad sign for these teams. Those non-LCK and LPL teams, their mid laners, already going into this event not quite as productive as those in China and Korea. Kill participation. We see Emo at 74%. So 3 out of every 4 kills for GAM, Emo is involved in. And we noticed GAM play a lot better and rack up the wins when Emo went in the lineup and Arrest ended up being subbed out. Now, Arrest played a couple games during playoffs, so they're running what I would believe is a 6-man, which is why I have Emo and Arrest both on here. But Arrest's stats are all pretty much from the regular season, where Emo's are pretty much all playoffs. Now, the lower end is JoJo and Faker. 3 out of every 5, which is a big difference. 3 out of every 4 versus 3 out of every 5. We're seeing a wide spread of involvement here. The mid laner's not nearly as impactful in their team's kills. Maybe you're seeing a lot of 2v2 kills, a lot of solo kills in the top lane, and things of that nature. CS per minute, Chovy and Arrest, the only two above 9. Chovy at 9.6 over the entirety of spring. You may notice these stats are a little different than those in the preview videos for the teams. I'm trying to incorporate it so that we have a larger sample size for this video. Quad and Tuts, 8.4 and 8.3. So every 10 minutes, Quad would be spotting Chovy a 12 CS lead on average in a vacuum. But we also have to keep in mind, Chovy did this against tougher competition than Quad did. So you're spotting a gold lead. And people say, well, farm is the easiest way to get gold. In gold, a gold lead does matter. Someone try to tell me gold lead doesn't matter. If you want to indicate that somebody actually dominated somebody, they're going to have to be in the lead and ahead from minute 1 until the end of the game. If they truly dominate them. If they just beat them and they got ahead of them for last 10 minutes of the game, our standards and bar is set at the floor when it comes to what domination is. People just want to make it, want to be able to say the word, I guess. I don't understand why we're watering down terminology in League of Legends. I mean, I don't get it. ROI, damage divided by gold. Chovy and Faker, both above 1.7. So we can indicate here the LCK dealing a lot more damage per gold, especially in the mid lane. And even then, you look at Shanks and Knight at 1.6. Lower end of things, Emo and Arrest, both 1.3 and around 1.3. So historically, Vietnamese mids are kind of like this. They don't deal a lot of damage. They're more so facilitators. And it's a weird anomaly in the world because oftentimes you see everyone else on here is around 1.6. Sure, even in Europe we're seeing lower numbers. But Vietnam, this is kind of par for the course, which is an odd thing. But for Emo, that's kind of okay because he's involved. He's maybe playing more of a facilitator role. Maybe his champion pool represents that. Whereas Arrest is a little more finesse of a player. Share differential, Chovy and Honkyu around 5%. So that means they deal 5% more damage share than they receive in gold share from their team. They are dealing at a very efficient level for their squad. Which means that ROI for Chovy is pretty high relative to his team because he's dealing a ton of damage as well. Honkyu, not quite as much. Everybody on this team's dealing damage. Well, actually, no. It's just that they're not dealing any damage at all. Vision efficiency, Knight, 4.36 vision score per ward placed. That's pretty good vision, right? Taking his gold leads and finding ways to use it for objective control. And weekly, when I did my weekly player of the week videos, Knight consistently led in vision score. He was very good at ward placement. Caps, 3.78. That's obviously good as well because he had a big gold lead. So gold lead wise, he wasn't top 2, but he had a 265 gold lead. Hongq, over 400 gold lead at 15 minutes. Chovy, 375. Chovy also had a 312 XP lead. So if he's dominating LCK mid laners, what is Chovy going to do against everybody else? It's a scary thing to think about. XP leader, Caps, 366. So we look at Chovy, Hongq, and Caps as the 3 really dominant laners. Shanks and Knight also very strong. But the lower end of things, Faker was actually behind 80 gold at 15 minutes. And Faker provides more of a facilitator, playmaker role. He's not a carry anymore. And I got into an argument with somebody because they said, essentially, at least what I got is that Faker a few years ago said he doesn't feel like he has to carry anymore because he has players around him taking on a different role on the team. Okay, well then he's not a carry, and I'm not going to pretend like he can still do it. We're not going to be in this mystical spot where, well, just because someone isn't doing it doesn't mean they can't. It's like, okay, well, we're playing 80 games here. Let's do it for a few games and prove it. So the thing is, though, Faker behind 80 gold. I expect Faker to be just fine at this event, but he is behind at 15 minutes. Emo behind 200 gold and 100 and almost 200 XP. That's not great. So Emo last year really struggled in the laning phase internationally as well. I expect that to be the case again. And it's going to be one of GAM's biggest issues. It's going to be the mid lane role. Solo kills. Emo only had 1 in 18 games. Caps. Over 1 in every 3 across 34 games. You could say he maybe had 12 in 34 games or something. Very aggressive. I'm surprised people had Caps so low in the rankings because statistically he had a very good season. Split, excuse me. Champion pool, higher end of things. Arrest played 12 different champions in 18 games. And then Tuts played 15 champions in 32 games. So both very wide champion pools and usages. Shanks and Knight, they played the most games out of everybody, and they both had about 1 champion every 4 games. You'd like that to be a little better. Like 16 and 64. I mean, we're in Fearless, right? So you got to have different. You have to have more pitches to throw. So that is a thing. But yeah, statistically, like I said, a lot of this is from this part down. And that's not good. A lot of that red on the board. And you don't want that on that part of the board because that means these players already going into this event aren't as productive domestically. So that's it for the first half. Now on to the second. Okay, for the champions. Not as many on here because everybody pretty much played the same stuff. If for instance 3 people or less didn't play a champion that everyone else played, it ended up on here. But otherwise, it was everyone's most played, 3 most played. And in the case of Taliyah, everybody played Taliyah. Very common pick. And I want to say this too because someone mentioned the jungle video. Xin Zhao, everybody played it. And I mentioned, hey, this might be a big pick. And they said, it's been nerfed, at some point the latter half of the split, so it shouldn't be picked anymore. On 15-12, it was still one of the most common picks. 15-11 in the major regions, it was still one of the most common picks in the jungle role. And in a Fearless best of 5 setting, I think it was like the 4th highest prio jungler. So by that logic, it would be one of the junglers banned or picked. But Taliyah, Emo, 28% of his games he played Taliyah. That's 5 out of 18. Tuts, 19. Caps, 18. Knight and Quad, JoJo, Shanks, they all played it as one of their most played. But it's very different when it's Shanks versus Emo. Shanks, it's 11%. That shows how many champions Shanks played and spread out the games played. Versus Emo, where it was like he's playing Taliyah at least one of these games in every series. He's playing. Ari picked by Chovy a lot, 22%. Tuts, 19%. JoJo, Arrest, Faker, Knight, Hongq. Hongq, though, only 10% of the time. Still one of his most played versus Chovy's 22%. Somebody that didn't play Ari at all, Quad. He didn't touch Ari at all, interestingly enough. Azir, Hongq, Quad, Shanks, and Faker. Big Azir users. But Emo didn't play it. Now, Emo is going to appear on here a lot as a player that didn't play some of these champions. Galio, picked a lot by only Chovy. Chovy, it was a big part of his champion pool, 13% of games. Emo was the only one that didn't play it. So everyone else played Galio, but not as much as Chovy. Akali, Chovy, Emo, Quad are the only three to not play Akali at all. Nobody played it a ton, but those are the three that didn't play Akali. Corki, Caps, Emo, Quad didn't play Corki. Everyone else did. Rise was nerfed on this patch. Now, everybody except Emo played Rise, but two people in particular played Rise quite a bit. Arrest and Shanks. Arrest, it was 17% of his games, one of his most played. Shanks, 11%, one of his most played. So, Rise being nerfed may take that out of their champion pools. Aurora, a big pick for Emo at 17%. Silas was played by everybody but Caps, which is weird because you feel like Caps would play Silas. Wei, one of Caps' most played. 12% of his games were on Wei. Tristana, another Emo special, 17%. So Emo, playing a lot of Talia, Tristana, and Aurora. Nearly, we got 62% of his games were on those three champions. Victor, Faker played at 27% of his games, which is very high. Hongq, Quad, and Chovy all playing a lot of Victor as well. But Tuts and then Emo Arrest, no Victor. So Vietnam and Brazil, LTA South, not big Victor supporters, at least the representatives here. Yone, Knight, and JoJo, 13% of their games. Big Yone enjoyers. And then Aurelia was buffed. Now, when I look at a buff, nobody played Aurelia this year. And then we got to look back since 2013, and that's how you look at these buffs and nerfs relative to the patches. I'm not making a 15-13 video. We're incorporating into this content because it's not a big patch. So Aurelia was buffed. In the last 2 years, only Shanks and Chovy have even played Aurelia in a competitive game. I don't give a flying fuck if Faker plays it in solo queue. That is irrelevant. Maybe he'll play it, maybe he won't. The fact that somebody was willing to play it on stage in a game that was meaningful the last 2 years tells me that that person likes Aurelia because they were willing to play Aurelia when it wasn't even buffed and no one else was playing it. Now that it's buffed, they have more likelihood of playing it than anyone else, in my opinion. So Shanks, it's actually 1% of his games the last 2.5 years because he played it 3 times. Chovy, it was a one-off. But it was kind of interesting to see Shanks had played it 3 times. So for a minute there, he did think Aurelia was a strong pick. And maybe he's going to play it at this event. That'd be interesting. I wouldn't have had that on my bingo card for Shanks. Another nerf I didn't include on here is Twisted Fate. Nobody played Twisted Fate a ton. Actually, only Faker and Chovy played it at all, and it was 1 time each this season. So I didn't include TF because those guys didn't play it enough to actually, in my opinion, make a difference in their champion pools. But that's kind of the deal there. A lot of common picks, though. And you look at a player like Faker, 55% of his games, Ari, Azir, Victor. Chovy, 22, 35. I mean, it's not as bad for Chovy. 48% of his games are on Galio, Ari, Victor. Knight, 43% of his games, Talia, Ari, Yone. Like, stuff like that. Like, If you're under 50%, that's pretty good. It's when you get above 50%, then you become predictable. The enemy team going into drafts like, well, we know what's probably going to be picked in this, that, and the third, but with this guy, it's more likely and we can prepare better for it. So, the rankings there, you probably are thinking to yourself, huh, look at his rankings, look at the Discord. Discord, if you would like to participate in the tier lists, that's there. That's what the community thinks. And then mine are indicated by the stats. And if you've been sitting here and you didn't comment right away, and you've watched the last two videos, you know I'm going to adjust this a bit. But this is what the stats say. I reserved the top 4 for LCK and LPL. It's a higher level of play. The stats are not equal to that of LEC, LTA, and LCP. Not to mention, it's pretty safe to say that the top 4 players in the roles are probably from the LCK and LPL. We could have gotten frisky with jungle yesterday. I think there is an argument to be made about Bechuan, but I do like Bechuan as a player. So that is a thing. So let's first start with this. Chovy, Shanks, Knight, Faker. I like that 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to surprise some people because we have some dumbasses in the comment section that think, don't listen to what I say when I say I have Knight above Chovy based on Worlds 2024, and I'm updating it after MSI like I have been doing. A lot of new subscribers, and then they just think they can talk, and that's not how my channel works. So that's a thing. Now, after that, who is going to be 5th? Hong Q is 5th based on stats. But I like Caps still. So I'm putting Caps 5th. And then Hong Q 6th. Because Caps was very strong in lane, was aggressive. Was it his best season? No. But I think that he played quite well. Hong Q, I guess I'm still a doubter. I don't know. I think he's very talented. He's going to be one of the best in the world in a short time here. Hopefully he doesn't go to the LPL because that would just ruin his career. But Maple retiring and Hong Q coming into form, it's like a match right there for the LCP. Now, Tuts is definitely not 6th. Statistically, he was pretty good relative to everyone else, but he is definitely not 6th. So that's not going to happen. How do I want to do this? So it's between, it ends up being really between Quad and what do we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Well, 11's still going to be emo, so we're working backwards for a second. And then Arras is 10. Tuts is 9. And the reason why I'm going to do that is I think Tuts, at least right now, is a more complete player. I think Emo and Arras, Emo's pure facilitator. Arras is like a pure assassin, I guess. Does well in lane, but using that in the mid to late game is like impossible for him, I guess. So that's a thing. I mean, he does do great plays from time to time, and it's like, oh, look, he did that play there, though. That recovers everything. The fact that he's in a hole and has to make a crazy play to dig himself out of it is a problem. I don't care. That's a massive problem to me. So that's a thing. But I think Tuts is 9th. I think he's more complete. But would I be shocked if he got blown out in lane? No, because these 3, I mean, are all kind of meh. So then you end up 7, 8. Is it Quad JoJo or JoJo Quad? I struggle because both players kind of have some major weaknesses. Major weaknesses. I'm going JoJo Quad. I think Quad's issues get kind of covered up more so on Fly because of Inspired than Elyoya can cover up JoJo's problems. I think JoJo's a little more important to what Koi do than Quad is to Fly. I mean, certain champions I would go with Quad, but I think JoJo's a better player. I do. I really, really do. So what do we have here? Yeah, the rankings are a little different than what they appeared on the stats. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.